And in energy healing, we want to solve a problem from its root. We want to root that thing out from, like you're in the garden, you take the weed out by its roots, and then it doesn't come back. I am feeling into the group. And I am feeling the seed or the source of challenges that people in our group are experiencing. I mean, we're all at this time, actually, this is a question that came in, that we're all in a time of great challenge right now, both individually and collectively, due to the COVID infection, due to the pandemic. And the question came in, would it be possible for the change which comes from this global event to be in everyone's highest and best interest? Could a change orient towards maximum evolution for the individual and the collective? And how can we do that? And I definitely see, the thing is that the seed of the imbalance sits at an abstract level of consciousness. It's the seed. You'll never find the seed way out on the surface. If you think that the problem is out there somewhere, I'm having a problem and I'm feeling unhappy because it's his fault or it's because of that situation, then we're missing our mark. Because the moment that we put the responsibility for the problem somehow outside of ourselves, we are giving away our power to solve the problem. So, stepping back, as our awareness settles down, we come into our safe inner space. Our safe inner space is like abstract, it's expanded. It's an expanded level of self-understanding. So we could say it is a larger form of sense of self. There's an individual sense of self that fully identifies with the physical body, right? And then there's the expanded sense of self that identifies with everything. And there's the whole spectrum in between. And sense of self, really, what is sense of self really? It's like all of that. It's all of that. It's all the points of perception, of experience, and it's the wholeness or totality. And from the wholeness perspective, every point is infinite. And the reason that wholeness can experience every point is infinite is because we have individual ego that locks in to the physiology and the individual life and the individual experience, and as such draws infinite being through our consciousness, through our perception, through our experience, directly into the relative level of experience. So we are, as human beings, as individuals, we are literally making infinity in the point. That's what we do. That's what humans do. That's what our specialty is. And that's why it's so cool to be a human. As we do that, the larger, more spread out, more abstract, more unbounded level of our own being, our source level of our being, gets to enjoy infinity in every point. It's very interesting. That wasn't the download. That's just for the healing. That's just so that we know what we're dealing with. When we're dealing with the pandemic that is affecting our whole world, our group, our individual, from each individual point in our group, so much compassion is welling up in the chest area. So much from compassion. It comes up to the throat area. Clearing some frustration from the throat area, because there's this little element with the pandemic of it. It feels like slightly out of control, right? And it's like, what can I do as an individual? Any one of us doesn't have the resources as an individual to do anything with the pandemic, really, to stop it from spreading around the world from person to person or whatever, other than staying isolated ourselves. But from the level of our bigness, from the level of our universal perspective, our cosmic self, cosmic reality. The pandemic has clearly come for the sake of evolution. I'm just feeling into that. What we offer as a group, we're creating a healing space. Only because we're a big group, we're a very big group, we're creating a healing space big enough to embrace our collective. And in this healing space, what we can offer, the angle that we can shine our light so that good, all good comes from this, is from the angle of pure potential, as yet unrealized potential, innocent, bright. Integrated with divinity, right? Integrated. It's just our pure potential is like pure divine essence of creation, that source of creation, just barely manifest enough that we can identify it as something. We identify it as pure potential. And that pure, innocent, exquisite light of being, like a bright light of being, rests in the source of creation within each of us. It rests. It's just resting. And as it rests within the source of creation within each of us, it also touches everyone. Because my source is your source, and your source is my source and everybody else's source. So the pure potential, we're just allowing that pure potential to be the seed of the change that comes from the COVID pandemic. It feels like a pressure. It feels as if the COVID is squeezing. It feels like it's squeezing people. It's squeezing our world a little bit. And the pure potential, it's very unbounded. The pure potential is moving into the squeeze. It's allowing the squeeze. It's bringing a deep compassion into the squeeze. It's interesting, in energy healing, we're basically working with the 4 pillars of Dharma, right? Truth, compassion, orderliness or purity, and that ability to let go as needed. But the catalyst or the activator for the healing is the compassion element. It's the love element. The truth is the foundation. It's the anchor to source. But love or compassion, mercy, forgiveness, gratitude, all these values that go, because this is a Vedic concept. Dharma is a Vedic concept, and the 4 pillars of Dharma are Vedic concepts, and therefore they don't exactly align with English words. But if we look to this value of compassion, we find that it has the ability to create so much softness. The softness is an essential component of that safe healing space. The softness, the sweetness, the gentleness, the mercy that comes with this compassion. And it's essential for creating a collective healing space in which the people of our world can reside and heal. But look out. Remember, everything in the relative has two parts. Well, if we enter into, if the collective, if individuals of the collective enter into that healing space that's being structured through our collective work right now, then some responsibility comes along with that too. The responsibility of being compassionate. And that means the areas, many of the areas that are shut down, the areas that are affected by the COVID, the environment is cleaning up. The meat industry is being illuminated for all that it does. A lot of distractions that we have, I'm going to say engaged in, but that's not the word I was looking for. But a lot of the distractions are no longer available. Like, entertainments of different kinds, concerts and sporting events and things like that. Even shopping in a mall or something as a form, bars, all these forms of distraction, all these forms of distraction had to shut down. That means opening up time and space to take responsibility for a more compassionate approach to our world. And I'm just feeling that. I'm seeing it in layers upon layers. And one of the things that I'm noticing is that because there's so many layers, the compassion has to come back to the self. It has to come back to oneself. For those individuals who are having a rough time being just with themselves, or for those individuals who are having a rough time being with family members or loved ones who are abusive, right? So right there, we're coming right into the intimate space, the intimate inner space of the heart. That space of compassion is both the healing space, which allows the body's mechanisms for recovery to function at their maximum capacity, but at the same time, it carries this responsibility to let go of, that's the releasing of the Dharma, right? The threads of Dharma, let go of conditioning, habits, impressions, pain bodies, memory patterns, emotional cycles like vicious cycles, emotional cycles and thought patterns that are associated with being unloving to both oneself and extending that to those people that we feel intimate about. And I'm just feeling the interaction between the pressure that's created in the heart or it's like deep in the torso area. The warmth. That's where our warmth comes from, our central location, right? And these chemicals, hormones, enzymes, all the materials that create heat in the body, in the blood, and balancing the heat. What's happening is the heat is balancing so that it arises in a form which promotes an evolutionary transformation. Of the five elements, fire is the transforming element, right? So we're working with the fire element of the body. This healing is working both from the more abstract levels of feeling, and then you see we work through thinking, and now it's kind of working its way up to physiological. We're including the ancestry right now because the patterning, the cultural conditioning that has led our world to this place where nature felt that the most evolutionary thing to do would be to give us a pandemic. That conditioning is connected to these two forms of dealing with change or dealing with challenges that I mentioned earlier. Either giving so much that you give until you are nothing left, or running away. And it's the run away. It's the run away and don't look at the problem. It's that one, which is being changed for the ancestors. And there's so much fear because the ancestors are saying, if I don't do the runaway, the only other option is kind of self-destruction. Because you look out at the field of creation, you think it's infinite. It's at least pretty big. And at every point, there's both constructive and destructive energy. So here's the download for the ancestors, and the destructive energy supports orderliness and the ability to let go. The destructive energy, right? Because if your house gets too cluttered with stuff, it's not orderly anymore, right? We have to jettison, we have to find, reuse, recycle, reclaim, recreate. We have to do this. We have to, even with our beliefs, even with our understanding, even with our cultural conditioning. Oh, that's it. Even with the cultural conditioning, yes, for the ancestors, we have to help them evolve through the times that they were in when everybody agreed the time is like this, and this is what's appropriate, and this is what works, and support those souls to continue to reconstruct and recycle and rejuvenate their understanding of even who they are, so that everybody moves together. And when I say everybody moves together, I mean not just all of us in the body, I mean all of us. Because wherever our dear ancestors are, and surely more of them are in the spirit world than in the relative, because in the relative, there are only so many human bodies, right? Like you're there and I'm here, and there's a lot of space in between. My husband, he's over there, and there's space in between. But when we get down to the fine levels of consciousness, being is just like, it's thick. It's just thick. It gets thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker until you get to the field of pure being. And then there's no space, there's no nothing. There's no nothing. It's just being. The ancestors, and all those expressions of who we are, ancestors included, because they are expressions of who you are. They're part of you. They're part of you. Along with angels, guides, right? Everything is part of you. Just feeling such a big, beautiful tidal wave of transformation, being held and nurtured and released, like, being treated with utmost care by our healing collective for the sake of the collective of humanity on earth at this time, and for the sake of integrating divinity in the hearts of mankind, integrating the healing space, making the healing space accessible to everyone, so that people's immune systems work optimally in a balanced manner. Because we've got the little children and the immune system's going overboard, then we've got the older people and the immune system isn't strong enough. Balanced, balanced, balanced. And that the experience of dealing, for those who are dealing with the virus or who will deal with the virus, and I understand we've heard lots of different projections, but it could be 70% of the earth or something like that will have to deal with the virus at some point or another. So everyone, that the way we engage our fire, right? Because the thymus is here, and then just below that you've got like liver, gallbladder, stomach, spleen, pancreas, stomach, spleen, like that. And these are the organs that are responsible for the fire in the body. And remember, the fire is responsible for transformation or change. So it's how we deal with our fire. And of course, we know that fever is the number one symptom of the COVID-19. Balance. The fire is leveraged to promote healing with discrimination and care. The healing space allows you to be enough relaxed, feeling safe enough in yourself, that when the fire starts to rise up, there isn't a knee-jerk reaction to just destroy. The knee-jerk reaction to destroy doesn't happen. This is part of the conditioning. This is for the ancestors, is to help support a new vision of how to deal with the anger. We don't just destroy. We gently draw upon the values of clarity and sharpness and energy resource that's in the anger to indicate or to motivate the change that needs to happen. In a way, it's lucky if the heat comes up, if the anger comes up, because anger is pretty decisive. It has a kind of decisiveness about it. That fire has a sharpness about it and can increase clarity in a lot of ways. And so at least then there's little question. Usually when the anger comes up, and the anger, of course, is one of the signs, right? That a challenge has arisen and that some action step is required. It doesn't have to be the enemy. The anger can be the implement of evolutionary change. Beautiful. Beautiful. Her point is that fire purifies. It purifies. And purity is such a beautiful point, is such a purity, innocence, right? Purity and innocence are those qualities which are also essential for the healing space. Innocence is really important because in energy healing, we create a safe space for healing to happen. But then we let go. We let nature, we let the source of creation administrate the process. The source of creation, the infinite resource, infinite resource, infinite knowledge, infinite wisdom, infinite expression of perfection, of divinity in the relative. That is what fuels the transformation. That comes through as our pure potential. It comes through as our pure potential. So when I say pure potential, it has those qualities. It has innocence and purity and brightness and alignment with cosmic evolution and cosmic intention. Going into the deepest levels of our physiologies. What I'm feeling is the healing goes first to ourselves, that we're healing ourselves. And as we heal ourselves at a really deep level, we really are actually healing everyone. At that level, that collective level of self, everyone benefits. Everyone benefits because when we're healing our physiologies, especially at the cellular and subcellular molecular level, when we're working with the ancestors, everyone benefits. This collective level of self. And of course, self is collective, right? With our 37,000 or 37 trillion cells in the body. I'm definitely feeling that main focus for everybody in our healing webinar is so simple. I love it that it can be simple. That for everyone in the healing webinar, the main focus is just on adoration. Adoration, love, holding sacred and holding precious life. Right there, right there. I'm seeing it. And there's a turnaround. We're creating the foundation for a turnaround for a lot of people. When this world is attractive enough, then people will stay. They'll find the resource within them to overcome the illness. Their own systems will function on their behalf in a way that promotes a successful outcome and recovery from the illness. We're shifting that energy field in which all of us live, making the sacred healing space a little more accessible to everyone. I mean, who wants to hang around if you live in a world that's just dangerous and scary and upsetting? That's not why we're here in this world. We're here in this world to be the instruments of divinity expressed. And if the conditions are not favorable for that process, then the universe keeps evolving around us anyway. The universe will just keep evolving. And if the conditions do not allow the individual to move with that evolution, then the karma becomes overwhelming. It's like a huge pressure, and the system starts to break down. So what we're doing is we are stabilizing pure potential, divine being, in that very abstract level of our own inner sanctum of the self. And as we do that, we're creating a wave, because we are a big collective. We're creating a wave that is communicating. It's like we're giving a download to the collective field of creation, to all the humans, maybe the kitty cats too. I understand they got it too. There are probably other creatures out there too, but we haven't tested them all. And I'm just feeling into this experience and watching the transformation occur. Yeah, we're setting a pattern, exactly. It's like it's like creating a blueprint or something. We're creating a form that's easy for people to pick up. All those who want it. Well done, everyone. Well done. I'm feeling a lot of forgiveness going into the system as well. And I think the forgiveness almost always comes forward when there's a pattern that's been long established and people have bought into it and they accepted it and they thought it was right. And then they realize, oh, it's not right. And there's a period right there where people have to just get over chewing themselves out for having held some level of understanding that wasn't quite broad enough to include the next layer of change. We are all learning. We are all learning. So it's a lesson. It's a very difficult lesson, which specific souls who really need to learn that lesson right there, it's like, oh, whoops, I made a mistake. I need to just move on. I can't burden myself with too much guilt if I want to keep up with the flow of change. It's very, very common for people who need to learn that lesson to become musicians. Why? Because if you're on stage and you're playing and you hit a wrong note, you don't have time to put down your instrument and go, oh, excuse me, oh, I'm sorry, let me try that again. You just have to keep going. And you have to keep going as if you intended it that way, right? So someone once asked Stravinsky, I don't know if anybody's familiar with the music of Stravinsky, but it's rather atonal. And someone asked he's conducting and the orchestra is there, and someone raises the hand and says, pardon me, but I'm hearing some wrong notes. And Stravinsky says, I'm just listening to the music. Right? Because normally it's expected that the conductor will stop the orchestra if you're rehearsing and say, oh, you over there, the French horn, you hit a wrong note. Oh, you, the bagpipes, whatever. But in Stravinsky's case, all the notes were good notes. Even if they weren't the ones he wrote, he didn't mind. So it's like that. It has to be like that because our reality is changing too fast. We don't have time to get stuck being worried about a wrong note. Just have to move on. Lots of forgiveness, lots of forgiveness, lots of forgiveness. It feels as if the forgiveness is coming into that sacred space of everyone, and it's acting like an oil. I feel as if it's washing away a lot of old stuff. And I'm seeing in the field of the collective that one of the things that makes our world challenging, that we've come into this world with particular set conditions that we're having to deal with that are not easy, is because there was this holding of challenges from the past, or holding of grudges, and putting patterns of blaming and judging and having unreasonable expectations on people and all that kind of thing. So here, the forgiveness is acting like an oil. The forgiveness is absolutely a law of nature. It is a law of evolution. There's a law of evolution that's sort of like yoked together with forgiveness. This is not the first time, but I love telling you guys my inside story. And my inside story is that when we hit like a new level of healing ability, almost always I'll have a popping open of my senses of perception, even more awake than they were. And I just got that. So I take that as a validation. It's like a kind of little validation that I can get when I'm here in front of the camera with you guys. The forgiveness is an oil. It's going into those situations, circumstances, conditions, situations of the past, helping the parents, helping our parents, and mostly parents. Like, it looks like not, sometimes we do healings for the ancestors and it goes way back, but right now it's just parents, maybe a little bit for grandparents, like that, just a little bit back there, just a little bit back there. Helping them forgive themselves. Helping them is very important. Helping everyone who's holding a grudge against the Creator. That needs to heal. Because you are the Creator. This is a download for the ancestors again. You are the Creator. You are the Creator. You are that source, that resource that's within every particle of creation.